YouTube, today we have what I'm pretty positive is the biggest round of balance changes to ever hit Brawl Stars. With 48 individual changes coming, you're definitely going to want to stick around to hear them all. But we also are going to go over the new Brawl Pass for next season with some nice free additions. Oh, and I'll also have some more sneak peeks coming soon, so if you don't want to miss them, definitely subscribe. Let's do it. Alright, so first let's show you the Brawl Pass, then I'll show you the new gift shop environment, and we'll go over all the crazy balance changes, which also, by the way, includes some brawlers getting completely reworked in new star power, so you definitely don't want to miss it. Brawl Pass, it's going to cost the same as last time, pretty usual, and for the most part the rewards are basically the same, but you will notice, where is it? Why did I not hit it yet? There's a pin pack on the pay-to-win side, and there's a pin pack on the free-to-play side. Now, the differences otherwise are pretty much the same. You are actually getting slightly less boxes, probably because you are getting those two pin packs. You'll see the free-to-play pin pack is at the very end here. So you're getting two pin packs in exchange for about 16 boxes, which I guess is supposed to be close to the gem value they think is of two pin packs. But overall, I think that's a pretty good trade, in my opinion. All right, now here's the new environment, the gift shop. And you can actually also see one of the balance changes you will notice here with Gale, which is also a crazy change. But first of all, this environment I think looks really freaking cool. Yeah, it's a little bit bugged. But yeah, his jump pad, it looks different. And you'll notice the jump distance is very different, so it's not nearly as useful now. But this environment is really cool, in my opinion. There's just like a lot of little extra stuff to look at in a lot of different ways. You got masks in the corner, or in the corners. You got energy drinks. You got a lot of plushies, a lot of Spike stuff, which I guess is, you know, Colette's the collector of Spike and Piper stuff. So, yeah, that's the new environment. Alright, it is time for the crazy huge balance changes to go over how much this meta is going to change. Because it will be a totally different meta with this many changes, right? 48 total changes. It's going to be insane. There's also two new star powers, or two reworked star powers coming in as well. Now, actually, 19 different brawlers had variation or small, some of them kind of major changes to how quickly they charge their super. So we'll go over those all together closer towards the end. Let's go over all the non-super changes here first, including some of the star powers. Starting out with Poco. Poco's gadget, the healing gadget, is getting a 20% reduction in how much it heals per second, going from 500 health per second to her or him and his allies, anyone who is nearby, to now 400. Definitely a nerf, which I'm kind of surprised Poco to get a nerf. Not an amazingly strong brawler. The healing on Poco can definitely be overwhelming. Most people tend to cite the star power as the biggest concerning factor for that. I guess they wanted to nerf that healing capability of Poco, and this was the way they wanted to do it. I guess we'll see how that changes Poco's healing in those tank comps, and that will actually play a factor, as you'll see soon enough. Surge! His star power to the max, projectile split, it's now no longer going to split every time it reaches the max distance. It will now only split if it hits something, if it hits an enemy or a wall. It used to always split, now it's only going to split if it hits something. I think Surge a deserved nerf. We'll see how it impacts her. It's still going to be a solid brawler, but definitely not bad nerf. Alright, now Nita's gadget is getting a big change. Not only is it going from 2 charges back up to 3, but it's also getting a relatively big nerf. There's now going to be a 1-second delay. Every time you press that gadget button with Nita, it'll have to wait 1 second before the stun is applied. Now, personally, I don't like that kind of nerf. I think to Nita's gadget, I feel like that's not going to feel good, but it might play good, potentially. So we'll see if this puts Nita's gadget in a good place or not. Personally, I think it's going to be more of a nerf overall, because look, overall it's a weaker gadget, although you do get to use it one more time a game. Since it won't have a huge impact, I mean, we'll have to see. If you can still apply that stun every single time, then arguably it's just as good. I guess the difference is now you have 1 second to escape and get further away from that bear before the gadget is applied. Alright, next we have some crazy changes, starting with 8-Bit. He is getting a brand new star power! That's right, 8-Bit's extra life is now gone! He no longer has that, and instead, he has a new star power called Plugged in, which I'm really excited about. 8-Bit is receiving, with plugged in, 8-Bit will receive a movement speed boost while near his turret. And I'll show a clip because it's actually a pretty wide freaking radius. It's basically a similar radius to his boosted booster ability, where it makes his turret really wide radius. Basically, he will have that radius for his movement speed when he's nearby his turret. This is actually a huge buff, in my opinion, except in Showdown, right? In Showdown, the extra life was probably the best thing, but everywhere else, this is going to be a good buff for 8-Bit. I think he'll probably want this star power over his boosted booster one, although maybe we'll have to see. It has a pretty wide radius, so I think it's going to be great for 3v3 for 8. Now, this next star power change is going to be the best star power in the game, unless they nerf it, and trust me, myself and other people have already told them to do so, so my guess is they probably will. And another note, while I'm saying it, a lot of these potential values could change slightly when, you know, the build goes live for the update based on feedback, so keep that in mind. Now, Gale is getting a new star power. Instead of his, oh, and also, yeah, spring ejector range got heavily reduced, by the way, which it now kind of sucked, but oh well, it's deserved. Second Wind is now being replaced with a new star power called Freezing Snow, where every time he hits someone with his main attack, they get slowed down for almost half a second, 0.4 seconds. This is an insanely strong ability. Every time you hit someone, they get slowed down for almost half a second. That's easily the best star power in the game, and I don't think it's going to be close. I mean, you can impact every single fight by a huge amount. If you want to escape, all you gotta do is play it slightly smart, and it'll be easy to escape anyone, or even to get a kill if you need to. You can slow people down, make it harder to score goals. You can make it so you can escape from them. I mean, look, there's an amazing amount of ways a slowing ability impacts a game, and it works in every single game mode. So this is definitely an insane star power. My guess, based on our feedback, they will make this value, you know, not last as long, and then it will still be a good star power and not insane, but we'll see. All right, now there are a bunch of brawler buffs as well that are going to shake up the meta, and it's going to be an interesting meta to see, because first of all, there's a bunch of tank buffs. Okay, Daryl is getting a health buff, about 4.2% health buff, nothing crazy. Next up, Bull is getting a health buff as well, a little bit smaller, but you'll notice their health is now the same. Okay, so both these guys have the same health. They both got buffs. I think that's fine. They both deserve buffs, in my opinion. So cool. Next up, Jackie. Jackie maybe didn't need a buff, but this one makes sense. Counter Crush effective radius increased by 50%. I'm actually interested to see how this will impact Jackie, because yeah, I agree the star power was kind of not very good. You would always just rather have the guaranteed damage reduction star power, as opposed to maybe applying it back to enemies, maybe. Now you're more likely to get that extra damage, but we'll see if people even prefer that. Next up, El Primo got a buff to his gadget. The radius of that is increased by 11%. Not a huge buff, but I do think this was deserved. It's honestly really easy to avoid. It might still be really easy to avoid, but we'll have to see. So you'll notice 4 tank buffs, right? But next up, Shelly is getting a buff as well, a 5.6% increase to her health. So you'll see, okay, the tank's buffed, but so is the tank counter. Next up, another tank counter got buffed, Spike. His damage is being increased by almost 8%. So kind of interesting to see these 4 tank buffs, 2 anti-tank buffs. How will this impact the meta? Will tanks become more meta, or not really, because their counters also got buffed? We'll have to see. It's going to be a really different meta. Now, there are some important, really important changes to some game modes, and more than one, a couple game modes got some changes. But first, let's go over all the changes to the supercharge rates, because that will impact to some degree. All right, now let's do it. 19 different brawlers got super changes. I'm going to try to keep this one quick, because there's just so many, and let's be real, some of these actually aren't crazy impactful. Some of them are. Starting with the ones that just are not going to matter at all. And by the way, some of the reason they did some of these changes is just to kind of make the super bar charge more nicely, in a way. Basically, make the math look better is one way of putting it. All right, Barley, Carl, Colts, and Jesse all had very small changes to their supercharging rate that basically won't impact them at all. And most of those are from their super attack. So basically, those ones, small changes, it might look a little different, you're not going to notice. But these next ones, you will maybe notice. Starting out with Bo, whose main attack now charges his super in 3 hits instead of 4. So that's a really big buff to Bo, who honestly with his gadget and super was already kind of crazy strong. If you don't have those 2 things, he's not very strong. But, I mean, he's not going to charge super faster, which is insane. Technically, his super charge rate from his super attack got slightly reduced, but that one actually won't impact how fast he charges his super. Next up, Bull is also going to charge his super slightly faster. Not only from his main attack, but also from his super attack. The biggest impact you'll notice is from his super, how much that will charge his next super. His main attack, small increase. Dynamite is getting a decent buff to his super charge rate as well. Now in 2 full hits, he will charge that super. It used to be 5 individual Dynamite sticks hitting would charge a super, and now it's 4. So definite buff to Dynamite, who needed it. El Primo's also getting a buff to his super charge rate. So again, you're seeing some tank buffs kind of. It used to take 10 hits from his main attack, now it takes 9 to charge a super. And also it used to take 5 hits from his super attack to charge a super, and now it's 4. So definite buffs. Ems and Jean are getting about the same buff to their super charge rate. For both of them, they now charge their super in 3 full hits, where it used to be 3 full hits and some partial hits to charge their super. Now it's exactly 3 full hits, so small buff. And Max as well is getting that same buff to where it's now 3 full hits from the main attack will charge Max's super, as opposed to 3 full hits in some part. Now Mortis is getting a buff to his super charge rate as well, and this one will impact him. First of all, the charge rate from his main attack technically got slightly reduced, but it doesn't actually change any interactions. But now how much his super charges his next super actually will have a small interaction change in this one specific scenario. If you get 2 hits with your super attack, you can now charge his next super with an additional 2 main attacks. It used to be 3 attacks with his main attack plus those 2 supercharges to get a super, if that makes sense. So basically, 2 supercharge hits and 2 main attacks now gets a super, as opposed to 2 supercharge hits and 3 main attacks. Now Nita got what I think was technically a nerf to her gadget, but she will now actually charge her super faster. So hey, that's not bad. It used to take 7 hits with her main attack, now it takes 6. And it used to take 11 hits with her bear, and now it only takes 10. Rosa is another one who now charges her super in 3 full hits with her main attack, where she hits every single attack. Used to be 3 in partial. So again, you're seeing a lot of these, they want to make it so it's like if you hit every single shot, you will charge up a super, as opposed to if you hit every single shot and then you have to go slightly more. They don't want that slightly more, you're noticing. Now Shelly's supercharging rate is getting a buff, which is kind of crazy because that's the strongest part about her. Right now it charges in 2 full hits. All you need is 2 full hits. If you're point blank, 1, 2, boom, his super is up next. So tanks better beware. Technically, her super charge rate from her super got slightly reduced, so you'll get less back every time you super, but you'll charge it quicker with your main attack. And by the way, Spike also got a small increase for his super charge rate, but only with his super, so not a big difference. Tara, another partial small change, now charges her super in 4 full hits, as opposed to 4 in some partial, and Tick as well is now 2 full hits to charge his super. Now, one brawler whose super is kind of crazy strong, or at least a lot of people thought, and they were kind of upset they didn't nerf it as much last balance change. It's getting some more nerfs this one, and that's Mr. P. His super charge rate from his main attack is technically decreased, but it's still charged with the same amount of hits, so that's not actually impacting it. But what is going to impact him is now his Porter, whenever it hits someone, in order to charge his super to full, it used to take 18 hits, now it takes 16. So technically, that's a small nerf. By the way, Pam is getting some like visual changes that technically result in like a small nerf. Technically, the healing radius of her turret was not accurately depicted in live game for where you would see the visual radius. So they changed the visual radius to match what the actual radius is, which results in it looking slightly smaller. But the one area that actually impacts Pam is with her gadget. Her gadget healing radius technically matches the visual radius as opposed to the actual healing radius of the turret. A little confusing, I know, but it's a slightly small nerf to her gadget. Alright, now for some of the big changes to the game modes that I was talking about. These ones are really interesting. Definitely let me know your thoughts on these. I think most of you will like them. Okay, first of all, in energy drink modifier. The damage increase that you would get from that has been reduced from 200% increased damage to 100% increased damage. Personally, I'm a big fan of this one because I was always really upset if you played really smartly or really well in that mode. Like, you know, you got a couple kills, you had 5 or 8 power-ups, whatever. You were doing well, and then someone camping in the bush with no power-ups would get energy drink and just destroy you in 1 or 2 shots, right? That was really upsetting. Now, that's not going to happen nearly as much. You know, you might still lose, but it'll take obviously twice as many hits, so that's good. Okay, now bear with me on this one because it is big and it applies to a lot. First of all, this will apply to the safe health in Heist, the Ike health in Siege, the robot health and damage in Siege, the robot health and damage in Angry Robo, and the health of every single power cube box, okay? All of those things it applies to. But what am I talking about? Well, now, for all those things, the game will take into account the average power level of every brawler in the lobby, and they will adjust all that health and damage according to that. Now, I don't know how crazy big this adjustment is. My guess is it's pretty small, and basically what they want to do is keep the interactions the same across all power levels, which sounds like a good idea overall. If you're a max player, basically this means everything might be actually the exact same for you, although you might take less damage in some regards. Versus the robot, and technically less health on the Ike Siege. But anyways, if you're free to play, this is a great change, I would think. Well, I got more sneak peeks coming soon, so definitely subscribe if you don't want to miss them. That's gonna be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts on all the crazy big balance changes down below, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.